right. Time travel. Is it possible? It can be possible, provided that there are three conditions that are satisfied. The first condition needs to be, the time needs to be a continuum. What that means is the future, the past, the present all need to happen at the same time. Now, according to Einstein's theory of gravity, that's the way it is. The future, the past, the present all happen at the same time. Is Einstein's theory of gravity proven? Every single aspect of it has been proven so far. Every single prediction is proven to be correct. And we've been testing these predictions for the past 50, 60 years, and every single prediction came to pass. So what does that mean? That means that the time is a continuum. What that means is when you work the space-time continuum, it gives you gravity. No tomorrow, no gravity. No yesterday, no gravity. No future, no gravity. No past, no history, no gravity. That's what it means. So the first condition of time travel is actually satisfied. But does that make time travel possible? Einstein's universe is a static universe, so forget it. You cannot do time travel in Einstein's universe. If the future, the past, the present all exist, they need to exist in all their possibilities, all their varieties. Everything possible in the past, as well as the present, as well as the future, need to happen at the same time, every single possibility. So we need to be living in a quantum universe. So that brings us to the last point, which means that there has to be alternate timelines existing at the same time. We need that for the purpose of time travel, because without the alternate histories, you run into these grandfather paradoxes, and we want to avoid these time travel paradoxes. Also, the space-time needs to be continuum so we can actually take shortcuts. The space-time continuum needs to be curved so that we can take shortcuts through the space-time. So this would allow us to go to the future, or it would allow us to go to the past. All right, so all these three conditions need to be satisfied for us to be able to even consider the possibility of time travel. Forget about doing it, even the possibility of it needs to be, for us to be able to take it seriously. All these conditions need to be satisfied. All right, so two movies, Deja Vu and Looper. So these are the movies that we will be discussing.
It's that familiar feeling when you meet a stranger. It's that fleeting sensation when you enter a room. It's that flash of memory when you recognize an object. It's deja vu.
Have we met?
Yeah. No, we have.
And if you thought it was all in your head, prepare yourself for the truth.
What if you had to tell someone the most important thing in the world, but you knew they'd never believe you?
I tried.
Within the feeling, there are clues. And within the memory, there are warnings.
Brace yourselves, I think you're about to witness a murder.
This Thanksgiving, deja vu will lead to a journey.
In 12 hours, he's gonna kill her.
Unlike anything you've ever experienced before.
He killed her 4 days ago. Yeah, that's one theory.
Every single movie, time travel movie, give and take, they have the same premise, with the exception of maybe sliding doors. There's always a bomber or terrorist. And then you do time travel and try to figure out the identity of the terrorist or the bomber. In this case, once again, there's a bomber, right, involved. So they're trying to figure out the identity of the bomber. Okay, so how are they going about doing it? They get a wormhole, which is connected to, what is it, like 4 days and 6 hours earlier, and they're able to move the mouth, the opening in the past, in where they want. So there's a murder scene that they know of, which is tied to the terrorist, obviously, the bomber. So they go to the murder scene while the person who's about to be killed is still alive. And then they are going to try to catch the killer, identity of the killer, as the killer is killing her, obviously. So that's the entire premise of the movie. All right, so, and then what happens? All right, so, and then what happens is something that we will discuss shortly. So now that we got the premise out of the way, let's move on to the next movie. Looper was a surprising movie. I didn't think I was gonna like this movie as much as I did. This is a complete mind twister.
So you're me in 30 years.
It's hard to stand into your eyes. It's too strange.
Your face looks backwards. Do you know what's gonna happen? You done all this already? As me?
I don't want to talk about time travel.
We both know how this has to go down. So why don't you do what old men do and die?
Why don't you just stick your little gun out between your legs and do it? Boy.
In the future, time travel is outlawed, used only in secret by the largest criminal organizations. When they need someone gone and they want to erase any trace of the target ever existing, they use specialized assassins like me, called loopers.
You're a looper?
You know what we do? And the only rule is never let your target escape, even if your target is you. This is not a good thing. My boss will be searching for me until he finds me.
Sweep the streets, get on it.
I'm gonna fix this! I'm gonna fight her! I'm gonna kill it!
Hunt them down. But every second that passes is bad.
What's he gonna do?
I'm gonna save your life.
My life! Your life!
I know you're not lying when you say you're gonna kill this guy.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god!
So what's the premise of the movie Looper?
You have to kill his future self.
All right, I need a little bit more than that.
He's an assassin, and when they end your loop, they send back your future self to from 30 years in the future, and his future self gets away. And the whole movie, he spends his time trying to find him and stop him or kill him.
All right, I'm gonna give you 5 points for that one. Trailer kind of had the premise in it. All right, so these are time traveling assassins. They travel to the future, they take care of business, and then they come back to the present. That's what they do. And while they're doing that, stuff happens. All right, so 5 questions. All 5 of them are, believe it or not, guys, these are test questions. Directly. All right, so let's get back to Deja Vu. So we got they got this time machine, which happens to be a wormhole, connected, what is it, how many days into the past? It's 4 days and 6 hours into the past, I think. All right, so they are trying to identify the killer. There's a murder scene. They know that the person that they're watching is about to get murdered sooner or later. And Denzel Washington was told not to shine the laser beam onto the screen. Screen in the movie represents the event horizon. It was told, don't. All right, so when somebody tells you not to do something, what do? If you're Denzel Washington, you do it. Yeah, that's what they do usually. All right, and then what happens to the laser beam? It goes right through the wormhole. And then she sees it. She reacts to it. Immediately she reacts to it. And she's startled. Up until then, the underlying assumption was, hey, what happened in the past happened in the past. You cannot change it. This is a static universe. It's like a 4-dimensional movie at that point. As soon as she reacts, and all of a sudden he goes, wait a minute. She saw what happened. She reacted to it, and she's alive. How many of you guys noticed that she's also really, really good looking? She is, right? I mean, if she's an ordinary woman, they would have said, oh, yeah, let's just find a killer and let's move on. All right? It's not a big deal. And all of a sudden, he's looking at the woman. She's really good looking. At that point, now you got to move it. So what's he got to do? He's going to try to rescue her. All right? And then all of a sudden, it gets interesting. So how did the main character travel back in time in this movie? Short answer is through a wormhole. Okay, so I need a little bit more than that. All right, so there are 2 questions that we're handling. Number 1, why did the laser beam go through the wormhole? Guys, what does light do? Usually, light is going to follow the curvatures of space-time continuum, right? The wormhole is like a black hole. All right, it's a time machine, it's a wormhole. So you got 2 mini black holes actually connected to each other. That's what a wormhole is in essence. So what does light do? Light is going to follow the curvatures of the the space-time continuum. It's going to go right through the wormhole. It's kind of like the way the water follows the curvatures of the sink, and that's what the light does. So as a result, what happened to light ended up going right through it. So how did the main character travel back in time in this movie? Through the wormhole. All right, that's the simplistic answer. In the movie, this had a Disney-like name, the wormhole machine, the time machine. They called it the Snow White. And instead of using the term wormhole, they were using the term Einstein-Rosen machine, or Einstein-Rosen bridge. I think that's the term that they were using. That was the original name of a black hole, Einstein-Rosen bridge, up until John Wheeler came along and called it the wormhole. All right. So that's what happened. Why did the laser beam go right through the wormhole? All right. How did the main character travel back in time in this movie? All right. So let's move on to the next one, Looper. Are there any grandfather paradox violations in this movie? Okay, the wording is off. Are there any grandfather paradoxes in this movie? Why or why not? Entire movie is a grandfather paradox. Entire movie is a grandfather paradox. All right, so how do we know that? Go back to the meaning of grandfather paradox in the first place. So what happens? You go back in time, find your grandfather, and kill him. What should happen to you? He would vanish if this is the only universe. Then no one goes back in time and kills him. Now you exist. Now you go back in time and kill him. You vanish. So which means that if this is the only universe, if you go back in time and change the past, it's going to change the present immediately. That's what it means. So were there any scenes in this movie that reminded you of the grandfather paradox?
When he kills him.
All right, so with the exception now, I want you to just ignore the fact at the end he ends up killing himself, all right, so that he could break the loop. Up until that point, did you guys see anything related to grandfather paradox and went, oh, this is just a single universe?
When he met the girl at the farm, his
Okay.
older self was seeing that vision too, and he had to remind himself of who he fell in love with when he was in
All
Japan.
right, I'm gonna give you 5 points for that one. So in order to, while you guys are answering this question, I want you to refer back to the movie and pull a scene out of a movie to justify your view. A lot of the times you guys are thinking that you have to kind of come up with exactly what I'm saying, not necessarily. You may disagree with me, but you have to kind of justify. If you justify it, if it makes sense, I'll give you full credit for it. All right, so this movie is kind of open to interpretation. To me, the entire movie is a grandfather paradox. Remember, I don't remember, one of the loopers was able to get the older version and the younger version of the same person. And I think the older version or the younger version, I don't remember which one ended up escaping. And then looper started to amputate the arms or whatever. So what was happening to the other version? He started to lose his arms and he started to lose his legs at the same time. So whatever happens to one version happens to the other version at the same time. So that would be the grandfather paradox. All right, so you're able to torture one of them, the other experiences the same torture. And there are a couple of scenes in the movie and you go, oh, so remember the older version, in this case, Bruce Willis wanted to get in touch with the younger version. So he ended up writing something on his skin. All right, so he started to cut his skin and then he was writing a message and then the same message appeared in the younger version's skin at the same time. So that would be a grandfather paradox because whatever happens to the older one happens to the younger one at the same time. Okay, pick and choose scenes other than the ones that I mentioned in the movie. So question number 4, how did the main character break the loop? All right, this one is a simple one, but when you guys explain it, some of you guys kind of missed the point. There are 2 versions of the main character. There's a younger version and there's an older version. Younger version, when he had the opportunity to kill the older version, he decided not to. All right, so why is it that he decided not to kill the older version? Instead, he decided to kill himself. If he were to kill the older version, what would have happened? Loop would have continued, right? All right, because he was going to loop back to the same point and his life was going to end that way. So he decided to break the loop. So what did he do? He ended up killing himself, the younger version. That's what he did. So this was a bizarre, also a really interesting movie. All right, question number 5. According to the documentary Einstein, and we did watch parts of it. So what is the evidence that the space-time continuum exists? The only evidence, the most important evidence was the eclipse. All right, it was 1919 eclipse and then 1922 eclipse, and the 1922 eclipse was decisive. So what happened was, I think it was like 92 stars